across now to Mr. Pawan Goenka of M&M, a company that has been impacted on account of this diesel ban, which now stands lifted by way of the Supreme Court's interim order. Mr. Goenka, does this settle things once and for all? Because as Ashmit was pointing out, there are several open-ended questions still, whether or not there should be a cess across the board on all diesel vehicles, whether or not there should in fact be an upward revision of that cess of more than 1%. Some are suggesting something as high as 20%. So clearly, while this may be a relief for the industry, the matter doesn't end here.
Shereen, clearly, as you said, this is an interim relief, and the matter does not end here. But we do hope that this is an indication of what the Honorable Court is thinking in terms of what may be needed. And right now, clearly, it's only for 2 liter and up, and therefore, again, that may be a sign of things to come. But having said that, we still have to wait for the final order, and only after the final order is done will the case be settled.
Mr. Goenka, on the basic reading of the order today, what is the impact as far as M&M specifically is concerned? Because while you do have a few recent models that fall under the 2000cc category, most of your popular cars are above 2000cc. So what does this mean now for M&M, sir?
I think for M&M, the impact of this interim order is not very significant because all the sort of volume models that we had, which is Scorpio and we're already selling because we're able to convert those to sub 2 liter. There are still some small models that are above 2 liter, which will certainly get included for selling. But it's not a very significant impact. I think more important is that the whole debate on diesel, we hope will get settled with this, because there was uncertainty that is coming in the minds of the consumer on whether or not to buy a diesel vehicle because they do not know what might happen in the future. So that's the more important thing for us.
But do you think that will change, Mr. Goenka? Do you think that will change? Because, we're just going to play out an exclusive interview that we've done with the Environment Minister, the new Environment Minister, Anil Madhav Dave, and he very clearly believes and says that diesel is more polluting. He also goes on to say that automakers need to invest much more in R&D. He believes that India needs an Elon Musk. I know that is the aspiration that Mr. Mahendra laid out at the AGM that you recently had, Mr. Goenka. But for now, it clearly seems to suggest that this diesel debate is not over. What does that mean from a consumer standpoint then?
Well, I think the debate here was not so much about whether diesel is more polluting than petrol, but more about whether diesel is the primary suspect for causing the air quality damage to Delhi. And what we are arguing right now is that we have never said that diesel does not have more PM than petrol does. But the fact is that PM that diesel is emitting is not, has been proven by many reports, is not the cause for air quality problem in Delhi. And that's what we're trying to settle here, not whether diesel is more PM emitting or petrol.
Okay. Mr. Goenka, I'd request you to just hold on for a second. Let me go across to Vikram Kirloskar as well. Mr. Kirloskar, thanks very much for joining us. This is, of course, relief for Toyota Kirloskar also, because your plans have been held in abeyance on account of the uncertainty with this diesel debate. What does this mean specifically for your plans for India?
Well, basically, we were losing about 1,000 cars a month in Delhi for the last 8 months. So that was quite significant for us. Our 2 most popular selling models, Innova and Fortuner, were banned. So I guess we will start reselling them. We've got the new Innova right now, which is very popular. So that makes a big difference. Regarding diesel, we've already set up a brand new diesel engine plant in Bangalore, and which is supplying to the Innova. Now, when you look at fossil fuels, all fossil fuels have some emission, and when you look at them from different perspectives, whether it's NOx, CO2, or particulate, I think there are issues with all kinds of fossil fuels. So we have to go and we have to really look at a proper balance. What India has decided...
I understand that, but I'll put that question to both you and Mr. Goenka, Mr. Kirloskar. You just talked about that new diesel plant that you've set up for Toyota, but is this now forcing you to review, to reconsider your expansion plans, your diesel expansion plans? I know that at M&M they're now going more aggressively on the petrol side of their portfolio, trying to build up their petrol side of the portfolio. But what does this mean now as far as the future is concerned? Is it forcing manufacturers now to review their diesel plans? Let me start with you, Mr. Kirloskar.
Okay, I think you have to look at the overall perspective. India is committed to COP20 in Paris and certain amount of carbon emissions. Okay, and I see it'll be very difficult to reach that without using diesel. Diesel has much lower carbon emissions. And now with Bharat Stage 6 coming in 2020, it's a very highly accelerated program to reach Bharat Stage 6. The emission from diesel and petrol is going to be almost the same. So I think diesel at the higher technology level is going to be part of the equation to meet the overall the environmental commitments that we have made on a global basis. Diesel is far more efficient. We need to meet CAFE norms as well, which are starting from 2017, and it's going to be difficult to do it without diesel. So clean diesel, there's a lot of technology and investment gone into it, I think is still going to be required for India, for Indian growth in the future.
Okay, will this allay concerns that Toyota has expressed about the Indian market? Companies like Mercedes have moved the Supreme Court saying that their investments in India would be impaired on account of this. Toyota had expressed similar concerns. Do you believe that foreign investors will be a little more reassured after today's interim order? Mr. Kirloskar.
See, India is a big market. We are interested in investing in India and expanding in India. The only issue is this uncertain regulatory framework. If we say that, yes, we are going to go to global standards across the board as fast as possible, that's one story. But, a vehicle has typically a 7-8 year lifespan, a platform, and it takes 2, 3 years, 4 years to develop a new vehicle. So the investment cycle is little long. So we need if we are very clear about a regulatory framework, like over a 10-15 year span, and it's not going to be changed, I think you'll find a huge amount of investment coming into India. We are one of the largest exporters of vehicles in the world. We are a very competitive industry, and it's a huge source of employment. The number one I think component of Make in India. So all we want, it doesn't matter whether it's a tough regulatory framework, but a long-term, clear regulatory framework which will not be changed in between. You'll find lots of investment coming in.
Okay, Mr. Goenka, if I could ask you to comment on that point that came in from the Environment Minister in our interview, saying that a lot more needs to be done by Indian car manufacturers on R&D to ensure that we actually move up in terms of cleaner technology. Could you give us a sense of the current R&D spends, and given the regulatory environment, given the challenges that you face in the marketplace today, what more can we expect?
I think if you were to look at our annual report that just got published, you will clearly see that the amount of R&D spend that we have is going up significantly at a faster pace than the increase in revenue. And our percentage R&D expenditure right now is not much different than what you would see in global measures. But clearly, given that our size is much smaller, that same percentage does amount to less in terms of dollars or rupees. But if you look at our R&D center at MRV, and I invite all people to come and visit the R&D center at MRV, this will rival any R&D center that you go to anywhere in terms of infrastructure, in terms of people, in terms of the kind of equipment that we have there. I think somehow I do believe that the R&D capabilities of Indian manufacturers is somewhat underrated. We do have electric vehicle, which we have had for 5 years, but unfortunately we're not able to sell too many in India because the overall requirement is not being met of infrastructure, of incentive. So it will not be fair to say that Indian manufacturers are not investing in technology. We were behind, many years behind, 20 years behind. Now we are only about 6-7 years behind. And that's a lot of catching up that we have done in a short period of 10 years.
All right, Mr. Goenka and Mr. Kirloskar, I request you to hang on. We're also now joined by Mr. Soli, Sorabjee, the former Attorney General of India. Mr. Sorabjee, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. This diesel debate that's been playing out has also started a new debate between the government and the judiciary. The Supreme Court has today said that an environment tax of 1% will be levied on diesel vehicles with an engine capacity of more than 2,000 cc. The centre has opposed that move, saying that it is the prerogative of the legislature and not the judiciary any imposition of cesses or taxes. How do you see this, Mr. Sorabjee?
Well, actually, strictly speaking, it's not within the sphere of the judiciary to levy taxes or to suggest this. But over the years, the judiciary, especially our apex court, has exercised its power under Article 142 to give all these directions. It's not the first time it has been done. Actually, if you know the famous case of Vishaka, sexual harassment of women at the workplace, there are many directions given which are really the field of which only the legislature could have done. But this is how our jurisprudence has developed. And I think, don't look upon this as a tussle between the government and the others. Try and find a solution. Approach the court, ask it to vacate this order with some facts and figures to say it's not practical or it will cause hardship, rather than challenge the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to pass such orders.
Okay, so you're saying the approach of the government should be different. But if I could just take that point forward, Mr. Sorabjee, because you're absolutely right. This is not the first time that the Supreme Court has intervened by way of a cess. In fact, it had earlier levied a 1,300 and a 700 rupee cess on trucks coming into the National Capital Territory. They had also, in the mines matter related to the state of Goa, directed a contribution to the resettlement fund under the District Mineral Foundation. But Mr. Sorabjee, what about Article 265? You talked about Article 142, because doesn't Article 265 clarify that no tax shall be levied or collected except for the authority of law? So do you believe that if the government were to continue this line of argument, they would use Article 265 to argue?
Well, the Supreme Court would say that direction is law. They can interpret it that way without authority law, correct, but Supreme Court judgment is law. But look, actually, this is, to my mind, another case of judicial overreach. There's no question about it. And as I said, the best thing is to really approach the court, not challenge its jurisdiction, but point out what's the problem about imposing this tax and why it should be modified or reversed. You are right. Authority of law, but we got to well say, well, our directions are law and they have to be carried out. So it's no use getting into that argument. Best thing is to go to the heart of the matter and see whether the Supreme Court order really harms the economy, harms certain people, and if it does, ask the court to modify it.
Okay. Mr. Sorabjee, I'd request you to just hold on for 1 second. We're also now joined by Mr. Mohan Parasaran, the former Solicitor General. Mr. Parasaran, appreciate you joining us here. Of course, you were the counsel for Mercedes. Mercedes had moved the Supreme Court against the NGT order. Mr. Parasaran, help us understand now, because there are several open-ended questions that remain. Help us understand the way forward in this matter.
Yeah, the way forward is actually the Supreme Court made it quite clear that it's a voluntary offer by the Mercedes and some others, and it is the way forward, and whoever comes to pay this 1% will not be faced with the ban. And Mr. Salve made a request that this should be extended, this order should be extended to other diesel car manufacturers who manufacture cars of a capacity of less than 2,000 cc.
Okay.
And the court said that they will consider that in a separate hearing, and possibly they'll also consider extending this levy to other vehicles as well. Possibly
you mean beyond diesel? Even petrol vehicles?
Even beyond the diesel.
That's very important. So you're saying the amicus in this matter that Harish Salve has suggested... let me clarify. Harish has been only targeting diesel. Okay.
But the other diesel manufacturers have also been arguing that even petrol is as much pollutant as diesel.
Okay. Okay.
Therefore, there will be long-drawn arguments.
Okay.
But one more significant development was the statement made by the Solicitor General of India today,
drawing the court's attention to the submission made by the Attorney General last time,
Yes.
that this is not in the province of the court
Yes.
to levy cessors, taxes, etc., which is a sovereign power,
Yes.
and only Parliament, after a decision is taken by the executive, can endorse the levy
Mr.
of...
Parasaran, the former Attorney General Soli Sorabjee is live with us here on the channel, and he believes that this is a case of clear judicial overreach. Do
Yes.
you agree? You agree with that?
See, I have greatest regard for Mr. Sorabjee. He has had the greatest of experiences, and I can't afford to disagree, and he is right in what he says. And Article 265 of the Constitution
Yes.
of India clearly says no tax can be levied without the authority of law. Law means law passed by Parliament.
Right.
Supreme Court only declares actually the law for the country. They don't pass laws.
You're absolutely right. Let me go back to Mr. Sorabjee and Mr. Parasaran. Thank you for clarifying to us what the way forward looks like. As you pointed out, it's going to be a long-drawn battle, and importantly, there is also the argument on whether this levy should be extended beyond diesel cars to include even petrol cars. Of course, no decision has been taken. But Mr. Sorabjee, Mr. Arun Jaitley in his interview to me made it very clear that he believes the judiciary should not be stepping into the turf or the territory of the executive. This was in the context of what the Supreme Court has said with regards to setting up a drought relief fund. On the back of what we've seen the Attorney General say or the Solicitor General say in court today, do you believe that we are now headed into a battle between what the judiciary can or cannot do, especially when it comes to the imposition of taxes and levies? The centre doesn't look like it is going to give up easy.
I think there should be a situation which can be said to be a battle. As I said, I do believe that this order is very judicial overreach. I don't know how the Supreme Court has passed it, but they've done it. Now what do you do about it? Ask for a review of that order? Or do you go to the court and point out the consequences of such an order on others and how its harmful effects would be? That would be a better way to move about it. Instead of giving a long-term argument about jurisdiction and other things, I think that's not a practical way of doing things.
Okay.
Technically right.
So,
the court could not have passed this. I agree. Could not have. But
Right.
it has. And it has done in previous cases also. So what do you do? Start a new battlefront? Better thing is to approach the court and say, please modify the order. This is not possible. This will be discriminatory. This will be harsh. It will be oppressive. To my mind, that will be a more practical and a wise thing to do.
all right. Well, let's see what the government does decide to do in this matter. I'm not sure, as we've been pointing out through the course of this discussion, that the diesel debate is over or the uncertainty rests here today. I think it is going to be a prolonged battle that we will see ensue. Mr. Sorabjee, Mohan Parasaran, Pawan Goenka and Vikram Kirloskar, appreciate you joining us here on the CNBC TV 18 special discussion. Well,